Hot 106.5, it's time now for Front Page Jacksonville, a show that delves into the issues that affect you. We believe in transparency and providing only the facts. And now, here's Octavius Davis.
Unfortunately, this past week, there was another police-involved shooting right here in Duval County. Now, from my understanding, this is the 5th police-involved shooting this year. But if you've seen any of the video that's circulating right now on social media, the video does not show the shooting. It shows moments before the police actually arrive of a situation that transpired in the Arlington area on Justina Road. I grew up on Justina Road back in the day. So joining me in the studio today is a gentleman who's going to help us kind of navigate some of this after effect now, because there was a police report that came out as far as what led up to the police-involved shooting. But there's an organization that wants to hold the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office accountable. Please welcome to Front Page Jacksonville, Neil Jefferson. He's with the Jacksonville Community Action Committee. Neil, how are you this morning?
Good. I'm happy to be here. Good morning, Duval.
Thank you so much for coming on. We're going to have an opportunity to speak about the shooting that unfortunately took the life of DeJuan Hayden. Before we get into that, Neil, talk to us a little bit about the Jacksonville Community Action Committee. What is the organization about, and how did you get involved?
Awesome. So the Jacksonville Community Action Committee is a grassroots Black-led organization that started back in 2017 in response to instances of police brutality that we were seeing around the community. Did not officially join the organization until about 2019 and 2020. I was a student organizer at the University of North Florida with a student club called Students for a Democratic Society at UNF. And we worked on campus to fight against, racist policies. And, of course, eventually you got to graduate.
Right.
And joining up with the Jacksonville Community Action Committee was the next step. Taking it from the campus to the community to the city as a whole.
So in your involvement so far, and something that I heard you mention, you said police brutality. So not exclusive to police-involved shootings, but incidents that may involve reports of brutality on citizens throughout the community, because I think recently, maybe when I say recent, I think maybe 2 years ago, there was an incident of police brutality, I think over off Powers Avenue, with a young man that was beaten pretty profusely based on a traffic stop.
Right.
I believe your organization was present to support that gentleman as well. There at the courthouse. I can't remember the gentleman's name. Woods. Woods is what comes to mind.
Woods.
Thank you. Lakeem Woods. So your organization was there in support of him as well, if I remember correctly.
Yes, sir. We work with the family and Mr. Woods to make sure that they were able to get some sort of dignity and justice. And that's, excuse me. That's our big move. That's our big goal. We want to support the families to make sure they have what they need. Because, there is a human, cost when this happens. It's not all just, political and community. There is an actual human, in the case of Lakeem Woods, who was, injured and hurt. And his mother, of course, worried to death about him, his family. They have families that are thinking about them, as well as, this community at large that is hurting and that is mourning. So we want to see to it that the family, on a personal level, has what they need, as well as us advocating for them to get what they need, from the city, from the state, so on.
So with that support, here it is now, as I mentioned while introducing you, another officer-involved shooting right here in Jacksonville, taking place over off Justina Road. What are you all hearing in this case that took the life of DeJuan Hayden?
So, most people, have seen this video, this live stream, and, you've got these young men who are, on live stream just kind of having a good time. And then, in under 30 seconds, we see a police officer come onto the screen, force them down to the ground, and gunshots, and one of them is dead. And you hear one of the men in the video say, "I know you didn't just shoot my little brother. That's my little brother. You did not just do that." And it was absolutely wild to watch, because it's literally in under 30 seconds, they went from having a good time to like this man just lost a little brother. They lost like a son, a family member. And like, they want answers naturally. Like, the officer, of course, is like supposed to be wearing a body camera. Like, we want to see the body camera footage released because we've seen like the Facebook Live. Like, we want to see the body cam footage as well. Like, they're supposed to release the body cam footage.
Within 21 days, if I remember correctly.
Technically, they do have 21 days, but since the shooting and since they still have not released the body cam footage for this one, there have been other incidents in which they have released footage for. So they are very much capable of releasing this footage, but very often they do like to make the community wait. And there have been times when the footage has had details edited in, arrows and words and pointed, trying to put people's attention towards certain details when it's we want the raw footage.
Right.
Like simply unedited raw footage. We want the truth, and we don't want what they're trying to sell us. We want, again, the truth. We want to see what actually happened so we can make decisions as communities, so we can get the justice and accountability that is needed here.
And Neil, as you mentioned, you described the video. I saw the video. I saw it on Facebook. And once again, I want to reiterate, the shooting itself is not visible on that live stream. What you do see, as Neil mentioned, you see one gentleman initially on the video. You can tell by his gesturing that a friend or someone walks up. They begin interacting, smiling, laughing, having a good time. A third person shows up, hey, just having a good time. And then you see the police vehicles come into the scene. You see the officers get out of the car. You see one gentleman of the initial three that was in the video get down on his knees, put his hand up. But here's what's been confusing for me. When I read the article about what police said happened, stating that they observed gang activity, they saw individuals flashing guns, they saw drugs being exchanged. I didn't see any of that in the video.
Nope. Neither did I, honestly.
And so and again, this live stream, it's not 30 minutes long. It's not an hour long. It's a short stream, but just based on that short frame that we see, none of what they are accused of was seen.
Right.
In that video.
Exactly. So that's why we want to see this body camera footage.
Sure.
Because if they're saying that some illegal activity was happening, then presumably it would be on this body cam footage. Because on the live footage, we have no evidence of any of this stuff that they're talking about actually occurring.
And so that now leads us to an initiative that the Jacksonville Community Action Committee is working towards, enacting a Jacksonville Police Accountability Council to ensure true, long-term police accountability. Neil, talk to us about JPAC.
All right, so that is our big ultimate goal. So a Jacksonville Police Accountability Council would essentially be, us having community control of the police. And that means that people like you and I, like taxpayers, community members, have more say over how JSO operates in our neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Like right now, they receive the lion's share of the city's total budget. Like some years, it has been over 50% of the city's total budget. But it has been for these last few years, historic budget raises. And, what do we see the police spending their money on? We see these big horses. We see these armored vehicles. We see these weapons. But, if you were to get into a fender bender, you could be waiting for an hour or two to, have someone come and write an accident report.
Yeah.
And it's essentially, we want community control of the police. We want transparency. We want to see, reallocation of funding. Just because you have a hammer doesn't make every problem a nail.
Absolutely.
There's some things that police officers simply cannot fix.
Yeah.
So, we at the Jacksonville Community Action Committee want to see some of the money that they're getting reinvested back into the community. And that actually goes with our people's budget that we run every year. We put it out as an alternative to the mayor's budget. And we like to see, maybe about, 30 to 50% of the money that the police are getting being put back into programs like, mental health services for the public, houselessness relief, after school programs for kids, like jobs programs, fixing the roads, like things that would immediately make people's lives better. Like, we feel that, like, the real solution, the real future is in crime prevention. And a lot of crime is really just a result of poverty, of lacking of resources. And if, like, the city is able to provide people with these resources that they need, like jobs, like homes, quality, like, after-school programs and childcare, mental health care, like, all of this stuff, then we could actually, like, see some real direct change here.
You're listening to Front Page Jacksonville. I'm your host, Octavius Davis. My guest in the studio is Neil Jefferson with the the Jacksonville Community Action Committee. If you'd like to get in on the conversation, 833-758-1065 is the number to call. That's 833-758-1065. We started out the conversation speaking about the unfortunate police-involved shooting that took place in Arlington this past week. Neil was just sharing with us about JPAC, the Jacksonville Police Accountability Council that the Jacksonville Community Action Committee is working to have instituted right here in the city of Jacksonville. So let's talk a little bit about the oversight that would come along with JPAC if this initiative were to be approved. So my first question is, what are the steps that would need to be taken for JPAC to become an actual thing?
All right, so that's a great question. We see it as a marathon and not a race. Like, currently, what we are working on is a public safety committee. You want to say it with me? Public safety committee.
Public safety committee.
All right, and so we have a petition out, and it's got a ballot initiative to amend the city charter to give us a public safety committee. And this would be a first step to us having a JPAC. A public safety committee would allow us to get, like, some more transparency from the sheriff's office. Like, it would allow us to get more information, statistics about, like, what they're doing, how they're spending their money, et cetera, et cetera. And then it's like, if we as the public have access to that, we're able to, like, understand it and make more informed decisions and say, hey, like, we don't like that this is being done with our tax dollars, and we would rather see it used this way. And that is our first big step. We are trying to get 35,000 signatures between now and 2026 to get it on the ballot.
Do you know how many signatures you have right now?
We have a couple of thousand. Like, we've been working on it for a little, I want to say, about a year. I'll say about a year. We are doing pretty well. Like, of course, the more the merrier. Sure. Like, please, like, come find us. Like, we're trying to get these signatures because, like, we really want to make change in the city. At the same time, we do have, like, our first, like, woman mayor in office, like, progressive Donna Deegan. Like, we would, like, also, like, love to work with her very closely to make, like, positive change in the city as well. Because, while we can make a petition, like, she as the mayor, like, does have the power to actually just, like, put it into effect.
Sure. And you mentioned our mayor, Donna Deegan. Has there been any conversation with Sheriff T.K. Waters or the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office with wanting to put this particular initiative in place?
Unfortunately, we have met much resistance when it comes to the Sheriff's Office. Back 2020, 2021, after the George Floyd uprisings and the solidarity that the city showed in that, we saw the rise of the Safer Together meetings that would bring community members together with city council and members of JSO. But unfortunately, like, at some point in 2021, like, I believe it was like November or like, so my memory's lapsing.
That's
like
fine.
Maybe around like fall, like the meetings like ended abruptly after like, we kind of came to an impasse where it was very clear that JSO was going to have to change the way that they operate for us to move forward. And like, there was a little bit of a heated exchange I saw between like an officer and a city council member outside. And like from then on, like, the meetings ceased happening. And this led to a dearth of like, the community being able to be involved in some kind of way. Like, we still do try and make it out city council members to like make our voices heard But the Safer Together meetings were a bit more personal. It allowed us to speak one-on-one with, the people who are serving us in the city, and allowed the people who are supposed to be serving us in the city to hear directly from community members to see what our concerns were. So, these types of things where community members and, our public officials are able to talk to each other in spaces are very important, because you can't really do that at city council.
Right.
At city council, you can't even address people directly. So that makes communication very difficult sometimes. And there are restrictions on how you can engage with them and what you can and can't say. So this makes it a bit more difficult to communicate with our officials, and I would like to see the process streamlined a bit more. I'd like to see it become easier and our officials be more accessible to us.
A Jacksonville Police Accountability Council would differ from already existing civilian review boards in that it would consist of democratically elected civilians from each police district with no relationship to the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, meaning no retired law enforcement, no family members of law enforcement, as opposed to the current model where the mayor appoints members, oftentimes with extensive law enforcement backgrounds. Why is this caveat so important for the JPAC initiative to be effective?
So this is important because we don't want people who have so I don't want to say just specifically pro-police bias,
Sure.
but people who are maybe anti-progressive bias. This would prevent people who have a vested interest in keeping things the way that they are from having the seat in power that can change things. Because it's if we get this, ideally we want to have a diverse group of community members who are sitting on this council.
Right.
We want to see the entire city represented on the JPAC when we eventually are able to achieve this. Because it's we need not just people from one part of town. We need people from all over. We need people from the neighborhoods who are historically neglected and underrepresented on this council. Because a lot of times the people in these neighborhoods that have been underrepresented, we'll talk about the north side, on the Kings Road, Newtown area. They are oftentimes the most affected and the most vulnerable to the policies that are coming down from the mayor's office, from the sheriff's office. They are most often the victims of and witnesses of this police terror. And so if we have this JPAC, we need to hear from them, I want to say largely, mostly, honestly, because they're the most effective. We don't want to have a bunch of retired law enforcement who are going to say oh, everything's working fine. If
Right.
it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
Granted, different perspectives are very important, but we need perspectives from people who have been directly affected, members of the community.
These elected community members would also have the power to subpoena evidence, conduct external investigations, have access to evidence before and during hearings, not simply review after the police already conduct their own investigations. Participate in balancing the city budget, you mentioned that earlier, between the community needs as well as the police. Participate in misconduct and criminal investigation trials. Assist in specialized trainings and in the hiring and firing practices, as well as bridge the communication gap between the community and law enforcement. Neil, how can the community get involved with the Jacksonville Community Alliance Committee?
Jacksonville Community
Action Committee.
Right,
Thank
right.
you.
So one good way to get involved is we're always looking for volunteers. We meet every third Thursday of the month for our monthly meeting. This is open to the public. It's hosted at Cafe Resistance off of Soutel. Please give me a moment to actually look at the address.
I think it's 5007.
Yes, 5007 Soutel. You were on it. Thank you. And this is a space that we have been allowed to use by State Representative Angie Nixon. She's very supportive of our work in the community. We have social media. If you find us at Jax Takes Action on Instagram, you'll be able to see the events that we have coming up. We actually have a big event that we are putting together with a national alliance coming up in December. it's going to be called the Southern Regional Organizers Conference, and we're working in alliance with something called NARPR, which is the National Alliance Against Racism and Political Repression. And so we're going to have, like, different community organizers coming from all over, not just the South, but the country. Sure. And, we'll be talking, workshopping, learning from each other, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be a great time.
And for individuals who would like to sign the petition to help JPAC move forward, how can they go about signing the petition?
Awesome. So we have physical petitions, a lot of times, the online stuff is not accepted, but usually, I myself, I'm at community events, I'm usually at Art Walk every first Wednesday, outside on, near the library, kind of going down the street. And I have a table set up. We have our petitions there. We also have, community resources, information that we like to give out. Come see us. We're also at events like Melanin Market. Every time we can find an event in the community, we try to show up with a table. We try to talk to the community about what we do, and get more signatures. And also, if you have an event coming up, we would definitely like to hear about it. We love to be involved in the community, find out what's going on, and we like to share resources and work in coalition.
And you can also go to jcac.com if you'd like to learn more about Jacksonville Community Action Committee. Listen, when Whitney Houston said, "I believe that children are the future," she was talking about Neil Jefferson.
Yeah.
Neil, thank you so much for hanging out with us on Front Page Jacksonville.
Thank you.
We have more coming up in just a moment.
Now back to the show that informs you and discusses the issues. Front Page Jacksonville on Hot 106.5.
833-758-1065 is the number to call if you would like to dive in on the conversation. 833-758-1065. Just wrapped up a segment talking with Neil Jefferson with the Jacksonville Community Action Committee. And the whole nature of the conversation was in discussion of the unfortunate police-involved shooting that took place this past Thursday on Justina Road, claiming the life of DeJuan Hayden. Now, there's still an investigation underway. JSO claims that DeJuan brandished a weapon, and that's what caused the officer to fire. Now, the particular officer, this is his second police-involved shooting. I believe he's been with JSO for 6 years. However, DeJuan's death is the fifth police-involved shooting here in Jacksonville this calendar year in 2024. And so enjoyed having Neil on the show speaking about an accountability measure that the Jacksonville Community Action Committee would like to see put in place. And that's essentially being able to hold JSO accountable for their actions, but not just their actions, but many of the decisions that are made throughout the community. I am 100% on board with holding JSO accountable to its citizens. 100%. However, I do not co-sign nor agree with what happened on Saturday morning involving an off-duty Jacksonville corrections officer. Brad McNew was shot and killed early Saturday morning at Love's gas station over by JIA, Jacksonville International Airport, when he attempted to intervene in a domestic violence dispute and was gunned down right there at the gas station. That is not okay. The gunman is still at large. There is a massive manhunt that's underway right now looking for this perpetrator. Because this is not okay. Mr. McNew was doing his job. Mr. McNew saw a young lady in a troubling situation and attempted to intervene, to de-escalate. The situation was already escalated. Officer McNew attempted to de-escalate in that situation, doing what I believe he was trained to do, and yet this person chose to gun him down and didn't do it right there in the moment when Officer McNew initially intervened. No. The coward got in the car, began driving off, and leaned out the window to fire those shots at Officer McNew. That is not okay. I do not support that. I'll go a step further. Although Neil Jefferson has already left the studio, I'm pretty certain that the Jacksonville Community Action Committee is not for that as well. That's anti-police is not what JCAC is all about. Just based on what I see on their website, just based on the conversation that I had with one of their members. And so requiring requesting police accountability does not mean anti-police. If anything, it's pro-police. Because it's saying, hey, look, I see you. I understand and recognize that what you do is a very difficult task. Thank you for choosing to do what you do on behalf of me, the citizen, the resident here in the community. I want to be available to help you be able to do your job more effectively, serve our community more successfully. And no different than the athlete who's accountable to their coach, no different than the person who's accountable to their supervisor at their place of employment. As a community member, I would just like to be available to provide some healthy feedback to help you be able to serve myself and the rest of the community more effectively. Any relationship, it doesn't matter the dynamic, any relationship is not going to be healthy if only one person in the relationship is driving the bus. And if the person who always has the steering wheel in hand driving that bus doesn't take a moment to at least offer a courtesy to its passengers and say, hey, how's my driving? For all you know, you might be the worst driver in the world. The passengers back there, they bumping their head on the roof of the bus. Every time you hit a curb or a corner, they feel nauseated because they get motion sickness because you drive so erratic. And so after hearing that feedback, the bus driver of the relationship, well, I didn't know that. Thank you so much for telling me. I didn't consider that. Wow, you know what? You bring up a really good point. So requesting accountability of the public servants who serve us in the community, it seems like it just makes sense to have a community board who would be able to provide that feedback. And I really like one of the caveats that they're pointed out as well with regards to the Police Accountability Council, individuals who are not former law enforcement, individuals who loved ones or family members weren't former law enforcement. Why is that so important? Well, have you ever had a conversation with someone who is current or former law enforcement? And specifically, have you attempted to have a conversation with one of those individuals in regards to an issue like the police-involved shooting we just saw this past Thursday? Or the situation with Freddie Gray? Have you attempted to have a conversation with them? I have. And I always walk away from that conversation like, I wish I never said nothing to that person. because their perspective is fully engulfed in the perspective of the police. Fully. Almost like a us versus them type of mentality. I mean, it's like, yo, I get that. But I'm not saying that officers should never, ever draw their weapons. I'm just saying for the sister who called the police, I believe in Ohio, and they showed up to her home and she winds up dead over some water. Yo, can you honestly say that was a justified shooting? Where is your humanity? Skip that. Where is your common sense? So I absolutely believe the community should be able to provide feedback and constructive criticism on how the public servants at the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office can better serve us, because without that perspective, without that insight, that is not servanthood. That is a dictatorship. Hey, we have a lot more coming your way. This is Front Page Jacksonville. I'm Octavius Davis.
Broadcasting from the Anna Jar and Levine Studios. Anna Jar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
WHJX, Ponte Vedra Beach, Hot 106.5. Download the free Hot 106.5 app to your phone to stay updated with everything with the culture. We are Hot 106.5, Duval's only R&B. Hot 106.5. It's time now for Front Page Jacksonville, a show that delves into the issues that affect you. We believe in transparency and providing only the facts. And now, here's Octavius Davis.
In the town of Jacksonville stands our college dear, where our founding fathers planned for future years, strove to educate our youth and inspire our lives. Edward Waters, hail to thee, may you never die. Yes, I am repping Edward Waters University this morning.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. And no, I cannot sing, but you're going to get the alma mater anthem. You hear me? You will get that alma mater anthem. And there's more to it. I'm just sparing you, okay? If you want to hear the rest, go and roll. If you want to hear the rest, go enroll at Edward Waters University, attend a couple of chapel services on a Wednesday. Trust me, you'll learn the song by the end of the semester. I promise you. I graduated 20 years ago from that college. And that song is ingrained, not in my brain, in my DNA. It's a part of my mitochondria at this point. My mitochondria. Mitochondria. Okay? Now, I don't know what that is. I just know it's somewhere in the body. Okay? I barely passed biology. Don't ask me what mitochondria is. I can pronounce it, but I can't point to it. Let me tell you about good old Edward Waters University, formerly known as Kangs Road University, Kangs, Kangs Road, okay? Edward Waters and the University of North Florida will collaborate to host the NCAA championships in 2027 and 2028. UNF will host blah, 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 blah. I'm going to skip past UNF. Let me get on right down to EW. Let me tell you about EWC. EWC will serve as the host for the 2027 NCAA Division II Women's Volleyball Championship and the 2028 NCAA Division II Men's and Women's Outdoor Track and Field Championships. That is humongous.
That is so dope.
That's humongous.
Is he what?
Hugungus. We making up new words on Front Page Jacksonville. If you'd like to add a new word to the vocabulary, the number to call is 833-758-1065. If you are an alum of Edward Waters University and you'd like to share your thoughts on this, the number to call is 833-758-1065. That is huge.
Really is.
This is a monumental moment for Edward Waters University and the city of Jacksonville, said Dr. A. Zachary Faison Jr., president and CEO of Edward Waters University. Being selected to host these NCAA Division II championships reflects our institution's growth and commitment to athletic excellence. As the first HBCU in Florida, the emerging eminence to transition to NCAA Division II, we are proud to showcase our capabilities on a national platform. Bravo. Bravo, Dr. Zachary, A. Zachary Faison. Bravo. I'm actually going to work to get him on the show because since he has been with the college, I think 6 years now, I might be off by a year or two, I have seen astronomical growth, not just from an enrollment standpoint, but from a visibility standpoint, from an improvement standpoint, quality of education standpoint. I mean, just year after year, Dr. Faison and his staff continue to grow the college by leaps and bounds. Now, let me say this, okay? They're not perfect. They're not perfect. One of the things that I tell my son, look, I'm not looking for perfection, but I do want excellence. Okay? So we're not perfect at EDUB, but the spirit of excellence by which the staff is operating in, chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. When is the last time you've been to EDUB? All right, and if you don't know, if you're new to the city, if you're new to the show, EDUB, that's the surname. That's what we affectionately refer to it as. It has plenty of names because you heard me say Kings Road University. Oh, yeah, school has a lot of names. But the facilities, they've improved the facilities for the student athletes. Tremendous. The football field is amazing. The gymnasium, the Glover Jenkins Gymnasium, named after former Jacksonville Sheriff Nathaniel Glover, who's also an alum of Edward Waters, and one of the former presidents of Edward Waters University. It was Edward Waters College back then, but Jimmy Jenkins.
Yeah, both former presidents.
Yeah, that's right. Glover was a former president for a while at EWU as well. So I love, and this is by happenstance. I didn't wear the EDUB sweatshirt today because of the story. I had already planned to wear my sweatshirt. And then as I was doing prep for the show this morning, I said, oh, well, look at here. That's why y'all got that. That's why y'all got that little taste of the alma mater. Like I said, but I'm not going to give you the whole fight song. You got to go and roll if you want the whole fight song. But kudos. Man. 20 years. I graduated with my degree in communications May of 2004. And I'll tell you, here's why. And I don't know if it's this way at all universities. I don't. I just know that I have lived shared experiences with others who have gone to HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities. We have our issues with financial aid. We do, okay? It happens, okay? We have our issues with professors not showing up to class during class time. Now, see, you don't know nothing about that, all right? Huh? I know you went to HBC. Yeah, you did. But do you know about starting a roll? Yes, exactly. I know you don't know about no starting no roll, huh? Well, I'm gonna hit you the game real quick. When you go to class, again, let's say it's Introduction to Radio 101. So you go to Introduction to Radio 101. You there, your classmates there, but your professor not.
Oh, my goodness.
Instantly. Oh, professor on the clock, okay? Because if I remember correctly, I think if the professor isn't there within 10 minutes, if they have a master's degree, if they're not there within 10 minutes, oh, you start that roll, you write your name on that roll saying, hey, I was here, boom, you out. If they have a doctorate, you have to wait 15 minutes before you can start that roll. Yeah, that is a known thing. Oh, we would look at that kind of like, oh, start a roll. It's 7:09. Oh, start that roll. Let's get this thing popping. So-and-so not a doctor. That's just a professor. Let's go. But here's why I'm so grateful for my collegiate experience. I did not think I was smart enough to go to college. I didn't know any better. I thought graduating high school was the epitome of educational standards. I didn't know any better. A Different World, the TV show, was my very first introduction to college. I didn't know anything about college. I didn't think I was smart enough to go to college. And so when I did think I kind of sort of wanted to go to college, when I graduated high school, I moved to Maryland for a short period of time. And I was like, well, you know what? I think I might want to do this college thing. I visited the campus of Howard University. Yeah, that was probably the wrong thing for me to do. To go from not even fathoming college to going to the mecca of HBCUs, I was terrified. I was like, ain't no way in the world I'm going to be able to roam with these students. No way. No way.
I had the nerve to apply.
Well, at least you apply. Wanda's here in the studio. At least she had the guts to apply. I just walked the campus and said no. I didn't dare waste their paper application. I wasn't going to do it. And so what happened is I came back to Jacksonville with my high school diploma in hand, and I started working at Walmart. I was a bicycle assembler at Walmart. That was my job title. And I worked in a little dark room way back in the warehouse in Walmart. Myself and a gentleman by the name of Ganesh, called him G for short. And Ganesh and I, 8 hours a day, would put together bicycles, barbecue grills, you name it. I was back there putting it together. And then once assembling those bicycles, we then had to take the bicycles out onto the floor. And if you've ever been to the bicycle area in Walmart, there's like back then at least, there was like a 3-tier rack. It was pretty high up. And we had to climb a ladder and stack those bikes individually, manually. And so one day, I'm just doing my job, finished putting some bicycles together. Now, let me say this. If you ever bought a bicycle from Walmart on Merrill Road between 1997 and 1998, it probably fell apart on you. I apologize. I was not a very good bicycle assembler. Yeah. If you bought a bicycle from the Merrill Road, this was before they built the Super Walmart on Trednick. No. I'm pretty sure that bicycle fell apart. That was me. If the seat fell off while you was riding, I'm sorry. They didn't ask me if I knew how to put together a bike. They just asked me if I wanted to put together a bike. They didn't train me. There were no instructions in the box. I just went for it.
We are so sorry.
So here it is one day. It was around Christmas season. I'll never forget it. I'm walking this bicycle out, this half put together bicycle out to put it on the rack, and I came across a family friend, Miss Deborah. She said, "Hey, baby, how you doing?" "Oh, hey, Miss Deborah, I'm good. I'm just putting together these bikes." She said, "Well, what you doing with yourself now that you're out of high school?" "Well, nothing. I'm just working here." She said, "Well, what about college?" I said, "Oh, Miss Deborah, I can't go to college. I didn't take the SATs or the ACTs, and quite frankly, I don't think college is for me." She said, "Well, baby, you owe it to yourself to at least try." She said, "Call Edward Waters." I said, "Who?" "Who is he?" She said, "The school." "Yeah, who is Edward?" "Edward Waters College." Where is that located at?" "Downtown." "Downtown where?" I had never heard of Edward Waters. let alone to find out that it was right here in downtown Jacksonville. So I said, all right, we'll see what happens. And I told her I didn't take the ACT or the SAT. She said, oh, they don't require that. And so I called them. I called Edward Waters. I set up an appointment. They had an assessment test that I had to take. I went and I took the assessment test. And the whole time, anybody that would listen, I'm trying to talk them out of letting me into the school. Hey, look, man, I'm not good at test taking, man. I didn't take the SAT. So if y'all want me to go on home, I understand. No, you're fine, young man. Just come on and take this test. So I took the assessment test. And to my surprise, I blew the language and like literature part out the water. Now, the math part, no surprise. Yeah, they say, yeah, you're going to need a little help with that. But they said, well, young man, we would love to have you as a student at our college. What? You mean to tell me I have an opportunity to go to college? So I enrolled. And not only did I enroll, but I graduated with a degree in communications. So I am forever grateful for Edward Waters University for allowing a kid like me who didn't think I was academically equipped to go to college, gave me an opportunity. Now, had I gotten there and blown that opportunity, that would have fully been on me. Had I gone there and allowed my insecurities and self-doubt to self-sabotage, that would have fully been on me. But they gave me a shot. They gave me a chance. And for that, I am forever grateful for Edward Waters University. So kudos for all of the advancements that the college is making. Thank you so much, Dr. A. Zachary Faison, for taking us to Division II with the NCAA. Looking forward to getting him on the show as well. Hey, listen, if you are in the market to buy a home, don't touch that pocketbook just yet until you have an opportunity to hear from my next guest. Kiara Reeves is going to share with us some important tips to understand for home ownership. Hey, this is Front Page Jacksonville. I'm Octavius Davis.
Now back to the show that informs you and discusses the issues. Front Page Jacksonville on Hot 106.5.
We are indeed the show that discusses issues, and if there is an issue that you'd like to discuss, the number to call is 833-758-1065. That's 833-758-1065. So for years, we've heard about this thing called the American Dream. And a part of that American dream is to own a home with a nice picket fence. Maybe you want a dog, nice car, kids. Oh, it would be so beautiful. Well, our guest today is going to talk with us a little bit about a portion of that American dream, which is home ownership. Her name is Kiara Reeves. She's a real estate agent with Momentum Realty. Kiara, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Octavius. I'm really glad to be here. Like you said, home ownership is definitely the American dream. A lot of people somehow forget that they're entitled to that American dream, and it's a lot of things that go into that, but it's overall such a wonderful process.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because for some people, they may say, okay, well, I can't afford that portion of the American dream. So today's economy, with inflation, with the cost of living being the way that it is, we just saw a major hurricane tear up a lot of homes in the Gulf of Florida. So let's talk a little bit about how home ownership can become obtainable, especially within the African American community. So for someone who wants to own a home but may not believe that they can afford it, what's one of the first things they should consider?
One of the first things they should consider is something that I see often, and that's counting themselves out before even speaking to a professional. People say a lot of times, like, hey, well, my credit isn't good, or I have these debts, or let me pay down this collection first prior to checking with a lender. And a lot of times the collections may not even need to be paid off, or there's certain things that you would do to your credit as a consumer that a professional wouldn't even recommend that you do. So there's so many things that a professional can just go over your credit and look at specifically what your situation is, and then tell you, hey, this is the steps that you need to take in order to become a homeowner.
All right, so I'm gonna be transparent. It's okay if I be transparent with you.
Look, I love transparency.
All right, so my wife and I, we just purchased our first home together in 2021, and I'm sharing this because there's something that I saw on your Facebook page a couple of weeks back, and I was like, I'm gonna save this little tidbit for the show. We didn't use a realtor. We went right to the little builder in our community and said, hey, look, we want to buy a house. All right, how much we got to put down? All right, we'll put that money down. We want to buy a house. But I remember I think your post said something along the lines of, that's actually not in the best interest of the buyer.
Yes. That is one of those things where you don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
So if you go into a builder's office, you see these lovely new construction homes.
Because it was gorgeous. Yes, it was.
Yes, there's nothing they don't have to really sell you that home. The home sells itself. You just kind of walk in, you see the features, and, the model home is going to have all the high-end finishes. You're going in like, ooh, and
yes. Right.
Everything is catching your eye. They have the home staged so that you can, see what it would be like to live in with all the furniture. And you're sold right then. So why would you want to go get a realtor if that's going to add another step? However, for me, I did the same thing. Back in 2019, my husband and I purchased our first home, and we utilized a realtor because we were moving from Virginia to Florida. So we didn't know the area. There was a lot of things that we just felt like we couldn't do on our own.
Sure.
So having a realtor really helped keep up the communication during the process. We got check-ins, and it was just... I feel like having a realtor adds that barrier of protection to you. So when it comes to new construction, there's a lot of things I feel like I didn't get specifically for my particular transaction. And it's not to say my realtor was a bad realtor, but there were things that she didn't know. Whereas if you have a realtor that kind of knows what they're doing, or they have a little bit more experience in that area, something such as blinds or hardware on your cabinets, like everything is negotiable during that process. And people like us don't know that if you've never done it before. So
learn from Kiera and I. Don't go to the new build without a realtor. They're your safety net, right? So I'm glad to know that we aren't the only ones that did that. And so that's pretty common because, as you mentioned, we went, and I'll go a little bit deeper with the transparency. We didn't even walk through the model home that we actually bought. We was like, no, we'll get that one. Yeah, that one looks good. We'll go with that one. So you mentioned tip number 1, don't count yourself out before speaking with a professional. Tip number 2, if you do want to get a new build, go with the realtor because they're going to advocate on your behalf. For someone like, this credit score thing, this money, my money a little light. All right. So for someone who may need to take some time before actually buying because they may not have the financial means, are there financial options available to families to help them close that money gap?
I'm so glad you asked. So at these builders specifically, like you were saying, another thing that people don't realize is most of them offer closing costs, and they will offer down payment assistance depending on which preferred lenders that they partner with. So a lot of them, they'll have maybe a list of lenders that they deal with specifically, or they may even let you bring your own lender. Like I know, they're not paying me for this. Ameris Bank is one of those lenders in this area. They have a map full of the different zip codes, and you can type in the address on their site. It's called Ameris Choice. You can use it for down payment assistance, closing costs, and you can be a first-time home buyer. And a lot of people don't know that you qualify as a first-time home buyer every 3 years from your purchase. So let's say you purchased back in 2020. you would qualify to use that grant again. And I did say grant, meaning you don't have to pay it back.
Free money.
Wow.
Free money. Yep. So Wanda in the background. Wanda's our Amen corner today, listener. In case you're wondering, if you have questions for Kiera, 833-758-1065. That's 833-758-1065 is the number to call. So let's look at it from a different perspective, because staying in the realm of transparency, I wasn't necessarily sold on owning a home. Right. If I were a single man, I would be in an apartment right now with an air mattress, 80-inch screen TV,
right? And no couch.
The necessities of life. I get some milk crates. I don't need no couch. Right? And that's probably what my apartment looked like when I used to live in Tallahassee. And here's why, though, because for me, I looked at home ownership as, I'm going to call it a scam, because to me, it made sense for real estate investors who were investing in it. But when I looked across the landscape, I was like, I don't know anyone in my life who's ever bought a home, who's actually ever paid out that loan and they actually own it. So for someone who may be skeptical about owning a home, I loan a home. I don't feel like I own a home. I'm a home loaner.
And that's so funny you say that, because my parents actually owned a home when I was a kid, but I still had no clue what I was doing. And so I know so many things have changed since 1992. However, in this time and age, you got to think about what you pay for rent. And who owns that property, what they actually pay for the mortgage. You're paying a mortgage, you're just not paying your mortgage.
Yeah.
So all the things that it takes to maintain that home, you can pay other people to do it. It's not to say that you have to go out there and trim your lawn and take care of the maintenance and change out your AC. Everybody thinks, owning a home is all these responsibilities, but you're essentially paying for those costs to maintain the home when you rent the home.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense if you can build equity, and no landlord is going to say, hey, I'm going to give you a check for $100,000 back once you leave. Mm-hmm. They're going to be taking your security deposit if you put holes in it, or you painted it a color they don't like, or you did something to the house that they don't like. They're taking your check. However, if you own a home, you built equity, however much time you own the property, you can leave with a check in your hand. And who knows how much that check may be, but it's better than zero.
Yeah.
So,
and you mentioned equity twice. So share with the listener very quickly what equity is and how can it be obtained.
Okay, so equity, I'll put it into perspective how I found out equity was. I honestly thought equity was a scam because during COVID, so I bought my house in 2019, and COVID came early 2020. Yep. So all of a sudden, the price of homes, their value increased like tremendously. So I got a ton of letters in the mail, and they're like, your equity is this, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, equity? How do you know that? How do you know what my equity is? And little did I know, you got property appraisers, stuff like that. But I'm like, equity, okay, let me start doing some research. So I got an appraiser out to our house, and I had at least $100,000 in equity in just a year and a half. And I was like, wait a minute, this is my money.
Right.
$150,000 in equity, that is my money, and I can take that out. I can make upgrades to my house. I can use it for debt. I can use it for anything that I want.
And you don't have to pay it back.
I don't have to pay it back.
There you go.
So after that, I was like, wow, I love my house.
How can I get more equity? Equity for everyone.
So yes, equity is definitely an amazing thing.
And one other quick question, because you mentioned you purchased in 2019. We purchased ours in 2021. Our interest rate on our home, I think, was 3.1% when we purchased. And if I'm not mistaken, the interest rate today is 5.7%.
Yes, and I was just having a conversation with a woman the other day. She purchased in 1985.
Wow.
And she was telling me about her and her husband and the different upgrades they did to their home. And she was like, we were really excited because around that time frame, Reagan was in office, and I think interest rates were 17%.
What?
And she said people were freaking out, but they still were buying a house because you need a house to live in.
Sure.
You need a place to live regardless if you're buying or selling it, so why not buy it? So if she paid for her house back then, I think she said $30,000 for her house, and her mortgage was maybe $350.
I wish.
And we say we wish, but that was at 10% back then.
Okay, well, let me say that. I wish those rates back then with what I'm making now. Because I would live gloriously. Mm-hmm. So we want to make certain that we don't count ourselves out on the front end without speaking with the professional with purchasing a home. If you do the new build thing, speak with the realtor, right? Don't just go all willy-nilly by yourself.
Please don't go by yourself.
Right? Take someone with you who understands the lingo and how to fight for your best interest. Equity is good.
Equity is not a scam.
Right.
Don't be like me.
Equity is good. Interest rates. Should interest rates determine whether a person buys or not?
Honestly, if you need a place to live, I don't think it should determine that, because if you look back, like I said, in COVID, people were going into a frenzy. When you have the demand rise, that means the price is going to rise. People see, oh, well, we got all these people coming into the market to buy. Well, we can increase the price.
Sure.
Well, the interest rate is low. Of course, people are looking at the interest rate to be that attractive thing. But when the price rises, you don't get that same benefit as to where you would have bought at, standard pricing and higher interest rates. A lot of people don't realize you can refinance your loan. And granted, that starts it over for 30 years, but
Yep.
everybody is paying on a mortgage somewhere or another unless you paid it off. So
Yep.
it's not harm in you refinancing your loan for that 2% interest rate. And then if you want to pay towards the principal, you can. If you have a lower mortgage, nobody's stopping you from paying more on your mortgage.
And one final question for you, Kiara, before we wrap up, because here with our listening audience predominantly being African American, how can home ownership help the African American community in terms of being able to better leverage or to better level the playing field when you speak about wealth building?
So far as wealth building, I feel like home ownership is really important to the African American community, because it just broadens your mind and it helps you see that there's more to life than just being in a cycle of other people owning and having control. And once you have control over your own assets, it makes you feel proud, and you value things a little bit more. You take pride into your things. Like, you know how it is when you cut your grass and you go
Yep.
back outside and you kind of look at it like, wow, this is my house.
Yeah.
I love my house. I painted it this color. Like, it's just the simple things, and building wealth comes with that. When it comes to home ownership, you don't have to overthink it. You don't have to feel like, oh my gosh, all this money or whatever. Like, I feel like speaking to a professional can really clear up those things for you and those fears.
So someone who's listening right now who may say, all right, Kiara, I hear what you're saying. I want some of that equity. How can I get some of that equity that you're speaking about? How can they get in contact with you if they'd like to speak with you more?
So the best way to get in contact with me, follow me at Open Doors with Key on Instagram, or you can find me on Facebook at Kiara Key Reeves at Momentum Realty. And also, if you want to call me, text me, 904-629-7123, and we can schedule a consultation, and I will, send you my free home buying guide. This will walk you through the steps A to Z of how you can purchase a home, and it's really not that hard, you guys. I can help you with the process, and I can put you in contact with my preferred lenders that will get you this free money. So
free money. That sounds like an oxymoron, but it's a legit thing. Free money.
It's not too good to be true. There's multiple lenders out here with different incentives. You just have to talk to them. So
Kiera Reeves with Momentum Realty. Reach out to her if you're interested in home ownership. Kiera, thank you so much for hanging out with us today on Front Page Jacksonville.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
It's been fun.
Coming up in just a moment, we're going to talk to the first African-American woman-owned selfie room showcase museum in the state of Florida. And she a pretty dope photographer, too. I'm talking about the one and only Carissa Glanton. She'll be joining us in just a moment on Front Page Jacksonville.
Front Page Jacksonville resumes on Hot 106.5.
The Selfie Showroom, Florida's only Black-owned selfie museum and showroom, is marking its 3rd anniversary this month and is celebrating with an exciting community event. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if you go to this exciting community event, make sure you have your PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, and all that on standby, because the vendors in Jacksonville are going to make sure they get that money from you. I'm talking about the Selfie Fest, which is scheduled for October 19th. It features music, shopping, and many other photo opportunities. Well, we have the magnanimous pleasure of having the owner of the Selfie Showroom and creator of the Selfie Fest in the studio with us, Miss Carissa Glanton. Carissa,
Hi.
What's up?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I got to say, I am extremely proud of you. I think 2012 is when I did my photo session with you, when you were like a photographer doing her thing. And I mean, she had the whole little studio set up and she was contorting this way and that to make sure she got the right shot. And then 3 years ago, you launched your own selfie museum.
Yes.
So talk to us very quickly about your love for photography. Where did that come from and how did you get your start?
Originally, I went to school for graphic design, and within the course, you had to take a photography course. So they, of course, gave us photography assignments. My assignment was to, do some portraits. Of course, you had every type of assignment, like a landscape and stuff. I happen to love the portrait part of it the most. It was just like, I had actually asked my friend if she would be my model, and she was doing all these neat little poses, and I was like, this is actually fun, and I really enjoyed that. So from there, I just kept on building a portfolio, getting people to take pictures, until I kind of like brought down my niche. So I just kind of like did every type of photography until I kind of attached on to doing birthday photography. So, but with birthday photography, it gave me more creative control. I could actually create a background for everyone, which leads over to the Selfie Showroom.
Which is a great transition. So where did you get that idea from to say, you know what, I'm going to create a space where people can do X, Y, Z?
TikTok.
So what was it on TikTok that you saw?
I actually saw a selfie museum that had all these different themes. Originally I went to a couple selfie museums, the Museum of Ice Cream, Trap Music Museum and stuff. So I went to those and I had fun interacting in all the scenes. But they were all kind of like one theme. And I didn't think about it, but I was like, I'm just like a multi-theme person. Like I made all different types of themes for girls' birthday photos. I want a space that just has different themes. And when I actually seen it on TikTok, I was like, this is exactly what I want to do.
Wow. So from TikTok, birthed Florida's first Black-owned selfie museum. So share with us just very briefly some of the different, I guess, do you call them stations or like scenes?
I would say they're the showrooms. So I have one that one of my favorites is like the money room, where I have like a throne chair, and then I have money that you can throw around. And then there's ones that actually complement my original photography work, like my stripe walls. I had an all purple room. I have one that looks like a private jet. Wow. That's another favorite as well. So it's just like different themes that, I try to make universal so they can celebrate any type of celebration, not just a birthday, but just like if they are graduating or if they're doing couple stuff. Like, I just try to build different scenes for it.
And here it is now, 3 years since you've opened your doors there at the Selfie Showroom. How are people are they just able to randomly walk in and start taking photos? What's the process if they'd like to take pictures?
Yes, so during general admission time, Wednesday through Sunday from 12 to 8, they can come in and just pay a ticket to enter. So it's a shared space during that time. So they might come in with one other friend, but someone else, four other people might come in, but y'all would just take turns kind of. It really, usually it's not too crowded to where y'all have to double dutch to get into a scene, but pretty much you would just, once someone's done with one scene, they're going to the next scene, and that next person comes through and takes their selfies.
Nice. And so that leads us to this event that you've been doing for the past few years, the Selfie Fest. Where did the Selfie Fest originate from?
Well, Selfie Fest was kind of the idea of my clientele. Like, when they saw I was ready to open, they were like, hey, are you going to do any vendors outside? And I was like, I never thought about that, but let's plan that. And they kind of guided me through how to do it. Tell them to bring their tents, table, chair products and stuff, and we'll be outside, and you can cut the ribbon, and we'll be here for people who don't get their tickets or waiting for their turn. And I just love the idea of it. So then I expanded on that, and I started to, that was like my first one. I didn't have scratch-offs, but now I have scratch-off tickets. So if you purchase with a vendor, they'll give you a scratch-off ticket, and then you can earn a prize within the showroom.
Nice.
But each vendor only has 10 tickets, so you kind of have to be an early shopper and get out there and make sure that you get some tickets and prizes. I've seen some people rack up on 5 prizes.
Wow.
I was like, wow, you're really supporting the community. But they were naturally supporting. They didn't even realize they were going to get a ticket. Yeah. And each vendor has one free ticket, ticket to enter the showroom.
I've been to a few, and I absolutely love the camaraderie. I love the atmosphere and the vibe. It's positive. It's bright because the colorful tents are out there. The food is always good. There's clothing vendors. It's happening on October 19th. But what's the time? What's the time frame?
It's going to be from 12 to 5 p.m.
And location, so I'm going to help you all out with the location. It's going to be in the same location by the Selfie Showroom, right? Yep. The Rose's parking lot on Lim Turner. Right?
Or old Kmart.
Oh, the old Kmart on Lim Turner Road. All right. And so, Carissa, for someone who because you mentioned you got the idea for the selfie room on TikTok, right? Mm-hmm. And so, in this selfie video age that we now live in, why is the Selfie Showroom the place to go if they really want to get a high quality photographic experience?
Well, in the Selfie Showroom, you basically, judgment-free can use your cell phone to start with. So that's not typical for a photo studio. You're not going to go to a professional photo studio and say, hey, can I just take a few shots with my phone? So that's one thing that is good about it. And then I have tools for you already there. So like your ring light that you have here. I have ring lights in every station. All my ring lights have phone holders. So you could put your phone in there. And then I connect your phone to a Bluetooth remote. So it controls your camera for you. That makes it easier for you to take the picture instead of doing timers and then running back and trying to remember that pose that you had nailed.
Right.
So it just makes it more seamless. You won't spend hours trying to capture a photo in there because the tools will be right there at your disposal.
Selfie Showroom, Rose's parking lot for the Selfie Fest. Oh, if someone is interested in being a vendor, do you still have vendor spaces available?
Yes.
How can they become a vendor if they'd like to be a vendor at Selfie Fest?
They would need to register online with us. Vendor fee actually is 20% off right now until Wednesday. So that way I can kind of get everyone. I try to cut the vendors at entry at the Thursday before the event. I know we had this hurricane, so I'm trying to just give more people time. But I just want to be able to get enough scratch-offs for every vendor that registers.
All right, there you have it. Miss Carissa Glanton, owner of the Selfie Showroom, as well as the creator of the Selfie Fest, taking place on October 19th. That's a Saturday, correct? Mm-hmm. Saturday, October 19th. What's the time frame once more?
And 12 to 5 p.m.
12 to 5 p.m. You will not regret it, unless, of course, you go out there without enough money. You will regret it at that point because, you're going to see all that good food and good drinks and good clothes, and you won't be able to support the vendors. But as I mentioned, great atmosphere. Absolutely love it each time that I've gone. And I need to come back because it's been quite a while since I've been to the Selfie Fest, but you would enjoy it. So be certain to go out and check out Selfie Fest there at the Selfie Showroom. Thank you. Okay. So here it is. I'm ready to close out the segment. I see the little hand waving. Ladies and gentlemen, Wanda P. Welcome, Wanda. How can we help you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
We love the Selfie Showroom. So I just have a quick question.
Yes, go for it.
Holidays are coming and all of that. And I guess my question is, would the Selfie Showroom, and I already know the answer to this, be a great place for holiday family photographs?
Yes.
Or photography?
Yes, of course. And people can also bring in their photographers. It doesn't have to be cell phones. They can bring in their own camera. I just wanted it to be for every level of photography, whether you're an amateur or you're a professional. So a lot of professionals can capitalize on doing, coming in and taking pictures of their clients for the holidays and stuff. So they definitely come in and do their matching pajamas.
Now, do you still do photography work, like capturing images for people and things of that nature as a photographer?
At this time, I'm not. Just because it's so much workload. That's like being a chef at a restaurant and trying to serve the people and try to take the order and so it's like a lot and seat them. So it's like a lot to try to balance. Photography has so much post work. But I always loved the industry. That's why I transferred over to doing the studio. Mm-hmm. So I will probably go back to it. It's just that right now I can't replace myself at the showroom yet.
Understandable. Well, Carissa Glanton, thank you so much for hanging out with us on Front Page Jacksonville.
All right, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. All right, well, here it is. 2 hours gone. Just like that. We've had a great show, a lot of great guests. I want to thank Neil Jefferson, Kiara Reeves, as well as Carissa Glanton for joining us on the show today. Coming up next, we have Health Beat. Wanda P., who's your guest on Health Beat today?
Her name is Dr. Leah. Sorry about that. Her name is Dr. Leah Ishmael, and she is an allergist. And so we're going to be talking all about allergies, asthma. We're going to talk a lot about asthma because, as you know, that's something that disproportionately affects our community. Yeah. So that is what's coming up next on Health Beat on Hot right here on Hot 106.5.
I need to text my mom and tell her to tune in because my mom is allergic to everything. Grass, coconut, sun. I mean, good gracious. My mama, I'm going to get her a bubble for Christmas. I've been telling her that for the past couple of years because I promise you she is allergic to just about everything. Well, listen, I want to thank you as well for hanging out with us here on Front Page Jacksonville. I have 30 seconds to quickly say this piece that I wanted to get to earlier in the show, but I couldn't. Dear President Barack Obama, as a black man, trust me when I say we don't need to be lectured on who to vote for this political season. Rather than talking at us, rather than talking to us, try talking with us. For the black men who are not sold on Kamala Harris, there is a reason. And I know what those reasons are, but we're at the end of our show today. So I will say this, please have a conversation with us. Don't assume it has anything to do with misogyny. Most black men were raised by single black women. Most black men have women as supervisors at their jobs. Could it be that Kamala's policies aren't speaking to us? Or could it be we kind of think there's a lesser of two evils on the other side of the fence when it comes to being able to compartmentalize and finding out things that are going to be best for our family? Now, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for because, honestly, I'm still undecided on who I'm going to vote for. But as a black man, please don't assume. Talk with us. Hey, this is Front Page Jacksonville. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I'll catch you next time. Peace.
Front Page Jacksonville, Sundays from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. For show episodes, go to hot1065fm.com. We are Hot 1065.